Hi everybody. Today I have a pleasure to speak and interview new music composer from Vietnam and now living in Ghana. His name is LeUng Huệ Trinh. Hi.
Hi.
Can you give a short introduction of yourself?
Yes. I'm LeUng Huệ Trinh. I'm the new music composer, also performer or improviser from Vietnam. I start my career in Vietnam. In fact, I studied music at Vietnam National Academy of Music since I was 13. Um, and then at the end of the bachelor, I switched to electroacoustic music. And then in 2025, I got a scholarship from Germany. It's called DAAD. And then I spent 3 years in Hamburg at the Hochschule für Musik und Theater. So I studied multimedia composition there. And in end of 2018, I finished, and I went back to my country. I stayed in Vietnam for 1 year and had a lot of performances and projects. Then I moved to Ghana. It's in West Africa, and I'm in Accra, the capital of Ghana, almost 2 years so far.
Very nice introduction. And continuing with that, right? It's what is good musical composition for you?
Well, a good composition, personally, I think that it should have music, a character, or in another word, music identity. So then, of course, it contains a lot of aspects in that, like core identity, and I think that I'd like to listen to or watch a performance or a composition which can evoke something. It doesn't have to be something very obvious, very directly, but something abstract or vague. So I can feel more, or I can put myself in that composition.
And what is, let's say, latest work which has these of properties that you have listened?
Sorry, I don't hear you well.
And which is the latest musical piece, right? Which
Yes.
fulfills all these properties which you said of good music composition, which you have heard. The last piece which you have heard and has these things that you mentioned.
The piece that I heard.
Yes.
Um, the piece I heard, the last one. Um, well, in fact, it's not only a music piece. It was the last one I watched. It's a show from Nigerian company, it's a dance company, but they performed here in Ghana, and they performed a contemporary dance play, of course, with also music, and it creates the atmosphere, and it was about the life, like the whole process of life, like when you born, when you grow up, the death, and then reborn, something like that. But it's not only about that, not only a narrative, but it evokes something else. Then we, or me personally, I can look back my life, how I grow up, or the life experience that I have got, all the relationship and the development in my life.
What? And what is, let's say, your musical signature or musical ideas which you usually came back more frequently?
So the music idea, well, it depends on each project. So each project depends on the theme, maybe from a commission, or if it's my own project, then it depends on the moment, or on the thought from my society observation, for example. So it's difficult to say if I always put one idea in all the compositions. However, most of my piece is, as I say, is the reflection of my thought about the society observation, or sometimes also about the personal issues. Then I transform it into the composition, and a signature in my music. Well, I often exploit the element in traditional culture. So in order to combine with electronic music, which is my major, and also acoustic music. So I write music for both acoustic and electronic, or either I use original material from traditional music. And then in the last few years,
Vietnamese traditional music, right?
yes, mainly Vietnamese traditional. And then in the last few years, I expand my border into the visual aspect, small multimedia. So like such as video or photography, and then scenography, and also like poetry or text. Sometimes I write myself some poets, some texts, and sometimes I collaborate with other artists. And also like each of my composition, if I collaborate with other artists, normally I will leave some space, some certain space for the artist to express themselves, to show their identity. So let's say my composition is not only composition, but also partly improvisation including. And then in each piece, I normally want to create a certain space or atmosphere to lead audience into. Yep. And so for now, I like to discover different culture, traditional culture, and then I want to combine it with the Vietnamese culture.
Yes.
Either in visual and music.
And what triggers you? To start using multimedia, right? Start using visuals in your language. How it started with you? Why?
Yeah, in the beginning of my career in electronic music, I only work in music. But then, since I studied in Hamburg in multimedia composition, then my teacher, Professor Georg Haidu, he really encouraged me to discover more and to have interest to create a work which can express better my idea. And then after that, I became more confident, and I'm more interested in different art forms, to how to combine it to create my own work. Yeah, and so far, mostly I do everything by myself, like making video or writing poetry, writing poems, and do scenography, and I try to do it all by myself, not with a team, because for me it's a good step to learn. Then I can have experience to work in a team later. Yeah.
So one aspect, right, is to understand what characterizes your music is multimedia. Second is your, let's say, your Vietnamese roots and Vietnamese tradition. And then it's somehow interesting is that this idea of traveling to Hamburg was something important. Maybe you can tell about this episode, why you traveled and why you decided to go to Hamburg and to study, and how it impacted you as a composer.
Yes. Well, when I was younger, uh, it was it was very difficult for me to travel, not as like my friends in Vietnam. They have good condition to travel here and there. They can learn in abroad, etc., etc. But for me, I did. So, in fact, I start to travel quite late, um, and then I'm each time I travel, I'm really fond of new things. I see from people in different culture, in the way they live, let's say like society and different culture, and also language, everything. So it's it's really like uh, give me an inspiration in composing. And then later in 2015, I tried to apply scholarship, DAAD in Germany, and luckily I got it. So I went there. In the beginning, in fact, when I received the result, I was hesitate to go there, and because at that moment I was quite new in electronics or electroacoustic music, and I was afraid that I would lose, I would change the color, let's say, or the direction which I had at the moment. But yes, but then for some reason, after a while, I changed my mind, I think twice, and I decided to go to Hamburg, because I thought that maybe it's time to go, to change environment, to change the, let's say, culture, and have to learn to adapt. Something totally new to me. I traveled before for work, but those trips were quite short. Since it's just performances or doing some projects, but not really leave somewhere long. So I decided to go there to Hamburg. And why in Hamburg? It was because my professor, Georg Haidu, when I prepared the application to apply scholarship, I certainly searched a lot and asked around who know the good teachers about this field and that field, and I contact them. I read their biography and watch or listen their work on the internet, and then I received some answers, positive, but then I chose Hamburg. I chose Georg Haidu because I'm interested in his aesthetic and his work. Yeah, so that was the reason why I was in Hamburg, and it really a great time for me, new experience, and I became much more confident and keen to try different things, and something like I never done it before. I never tried with myself. For example, with my voice, I didn't like my voice at all before. Then I tried, and I could use it in some pieces, for example. So Georg Haidu, he really helped me a lot and encouraged me to try different things. I'm very grateful for that.
And what is the most important technologies for you, or is it software or hardware? What are the three most important technologies which you use in your work?
In my work, although I studied multimedia composition, which means really I was able to approach a lot of technology, very new. However, technology is not the main thing that I focus on when I compose. I just use it as a tool which can help me better to express my idea, but not that something I totally focus on the new technology. So for me, the artistic aspect is the more important than exploiting technology.
And what is your way of composing? How you start and what are the stages you go through?
So also it's quite flexible. Sometimes I have clear idea. Then I start to search for material or creating sounds, creating a space that I want according to a theme or the idea I already have. But not all the time I have an idea when I start to compose. And as an artist, I can't wait until I have an idea. I have to work. I have to compose something due to the deadline, commission, etc. So I will improvise, and then I record it. I listen to it again and again. Then maybe I might find some inspirations from some certain sounds that I played in the recording, and I also go to some performances or listen to something on internet, and I think I also spend more time to observe things around me, because certainly you can find something that inspires you from just small things around. So I have different way to start compose like that.
Yes, yes. And how the fact that you are Vietnamese, right, composer, how it, and you live most life in Vietnam, how it affected you, right? What's the difference between, let's say, you and some other composers who all the time spend in Germany, right? Who born in Hamburg, lives in Hamburg, and study in Hamburg. What's this? How this Vietnamese factor influence your music?
Um, Going abroad, um, it it's a really good chance, good opportunity for me to look back my country, my culture, my relationships, because sometimes when you're inside you can't see it clearly, but when you see it from outside, then something become clearer, and because you have a distance to them or to it, then you can see it or you understand it better than when you're inside. And Vietnamese culture, it's really an important role in my work, because when I was a kid, my parents they used to play traditional instrument, traditional Vietnamese instrument. And then when I start with electroacoustic music, I asked a teacher who doesn't teach at a school or conservatory. He's also a contemporary composer, independent composer. So it took me a long time. I think it was 1 year or more to persuade him to accept me. And besides being a contemporary composer, he is a traditional percussionist.
Mm-hmm.
So what he taught me, what he showed me in the performance and explained to me, it really influenced me strongly. And that's why I have a strong influence, strong impact from him. His name is Sandris. And since then, I always use traditional Vietnamese music as the main material. Sometimes more, sometimes less, but it always exists somehow in my work. Yeah.
Yes, and how your music changed in last 10 years, right?
Yeah, in the last 10 years, well, so far I count it's 11 years exactly since I start with electronic music. And before I studied jazz piano at the academy, and at that time I also had to compose for the band in exam, in each exam, and I did it, but I was not satisfied. I feel that I still need something else to express really what I feel. And with all those material that I can use on the piano, or I can do it with my band, it was not enough for me. But I didn't know at the time, I didn't know what I need or what I missed. So luckily, when I start to study with Sandris, my teacher, I work with sound. I start to discover different sounds. For example, just sound from I record from the street, or some sound that I try with some object and I record it, and then I found out that okay, now I can create music with those sounds, which is which doesn't come from an instrument. But you know, at that time in Vietnam, experimental music is something very new. We didn't know, and so for me, although I studied at the academy, but there was nothing about experimental music, contemporary music, nothing. So when I start to discover those sounds and I can create a piece, or I would say like small exercise, I was really happy because I felt, oh, okay, now I find my word. I can really express something more abstract than what I can play on the keyboard. I can play on instrument because sometimes it can't express all the feeling. Something too abstract, I didn't find a way to express it. And then now with all the sounds like concrete sound or some ambient sounds, I can do it more and more. And so I was so happy, like I discovered a new word.
Yes.
So that was I changed for. It changed me a lot. It's a big step.
Yes. Yes. And you, you are a multimedia composer yourself, right?
Yes.
So, and how it change how it change your idea, because you have very good you have a good professor in Hamburg University. How it change your way of thinking towards music, this idea incorporating all other elements, like visual, dance, etc.
Yeah, as I said a few minutes ago, that in the beginning I only focus on the music because I start with the instrument, so just piano or just keyboard. So I totally focus on that. I didn't think at all about the multimedia. Or in another word, at that time in Vietnam, for musicians, in general, we didn't have any term about multimedia composition.
Yes.
Yeah, so I totally just in the border of music with instruments, and then when I start my study in Hamburg, the requirement of the program that you have to do something each semester. You have to create a multimedia work and perform. So then it became a big challenge for me. Although when I took the entry exam, I know that, but it's still, when you start to do it, it's a big challenge. And then I start to work with an electric guitar, fretless electric guitar, and then I composed for him to discover the we call extended technique, which I didn't do it before, not at all. And then I start to write a poem. Then I recorded with my voice, which I told you that I tried again and again because I didn't like my voice at all. Then my teacher, he listened to it and he encouraged me to do it again and again and again until I feel satisfied. And I think that I recorded like 20 times probably, because I was not satisfied, and then I do it again. And I went to the very last corner of the house, of the apartment where I stay, very dark and very quiet, and I record my voice. So after like almost 20 times, I found something okay, and then I use it. with a poem that I found a way to make the projection with some special spot of some important word in on the screen with a live performance of an electric guitarist, and then I made the electronic part also. So it was, in fact, it was not the first work that I combined with video. I did once before, but it was not for the, it was the mix tape. So it was not a live performance. But then in Hamburg, I did the first piece that it was a live performance and combined different things in multimedia.
And for you, what's just, if you need to explain in simple words, what is multimedia composition? How it differs from other musical?
Multimedia composition basically is a composition that it contains different art form. Not only you compose not only music, but you can combine with poetry, with dance, with video, with installation, video art, yeah. So or spoken word, a lot of things in one work, but they are equal.
Yes.
Not that one form is the most important and the other art form just support, but all of them support each other to create a complete work.
And let's say how it's different to your mind, how it's different from previous paradigms, right? As you mentioned, extended techniques or others. What's the biggest difference to being multimedia composer and let's say composer who writes with extended techniques but only sound?
I think a multimedia composition, it can bring more, how to say, like a diverse aspect to bring the audience, really put them into the space of the work, or in the it's like the atmosphere that you really want to share with the audience, because we have a different sense. You have ear to listen to the sound.
Yes.
You have eyes to see the visual. You have even you can touch the surface to feel the texture. You can smell, etc., etc. So multimedia is something like that. That it offers more possibilities to audience to experience work in different sense.
And just what do you think? Because I have spoke with composers, and from them I understand that to being multimedia composer, it's more closer to, let's say, to be a movie director or theater director, right? So that it's less you are composer only, you are taking different more director roles, and even the way how you organize material, you start becoming more like a director, less composer. From your experience, is it somehow resonate with your experience as well or not?
Yes, I had the same experience, because when you want to have a complete work, you should somehow control all the aspects that can create your work. Even you collaborate with a professional dancer or professional stage let's say, state light or scenario or scenography, etc., etc. But then you still have to be the one who connect all those things together. Otherwise, it just be a piece, a collage piece.
Yes.
You just put different things there on a stage.
Yes.
So, due to that challenge, then you have to be the director, artistic director, I would say. Then you can know how to put all those aspects, all those things together. Then it can be in a connection closely to express your idea.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that's why I try to learn myself to do all different steps in the production myself so far, just to learn how to manage it, how to manage things when all those issues, sometimes it happens, sometimes difficulties and or compromise. I have to compromise with this and that. Then for me later, when I work with professional ones in different fields, then I know, okay, now I have to put this with this, and then they will be together in a good way.
But, right, as I understand, you as a composer, you can you create you create analog sound with instruments. You can create electronical sounds. You can create text because you are right on your own, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then as I understand, you can create videos, right?
Yes, yes.
And you create dance choreography as well on your own as well.
No, not really that I create a choreography. In my last show in the multimedia performance in Ghana, I collaborate with a choreographer, a Ghanaian choreographer. However, I still have to, I was in all the rehearsals to be sure that the idea that I wanna express, the idea that I wanna create a piece for that, it should be in the right track.
Yes.
Because as you say, like being a director, and I was an artistic director also, because if I just let the choreographer or the dancers do it by themselves, then I'm not sure that everything will go on the right track.
Yes.
On the right track. And then for some parts I had to participate in a choreography a little bit, yes. Not really like show them like I dance and they see me, but I have to explain more detail and how that they should put themselves in the work, in the, let's say, story that I create.
Yes.
Then everything will be in connection. And also because here in Africa, normally people listen to music with rhythm, like percussions, drums, singing, but it's always like rhythmic. And then when I create something ambient, they didn't know what to do. They was a bit struggling at the time, and then I had to explain and try to give them some hint with some kind of movement to be on the right track.
Yes. Yes.
And then we develop together. Yeah.
And do you have you experience of coding something for your own, right?
Yeah, I studied a little bit about that, but it's not my major. It's not my strength in coding.
Yes. Yes. So it's so one thing, right, is correctly understand to being a multimedia composer. It's not only about that you're becoming director, but it's about your, let's say, your skill set as well. So you need to expand a lot of skill set, right? So you need to to gain some competencies in other, let's say, in other form of arts, right? So that you can build together this musical language.
Yeah, that's right. That's true. You have to really expand your border. Then, when you create, you want to create a multimedia work, then you know how to work on it and how to make it, uh, how to make them together.
Yeah.
Otherwise, then it doesn't work. It's just like something additional that you put in your in your musical work.
Yes.
So that's why you have to, as a multimedia composer, we or I have to really learn about different things, and then learn how to just have to experiment and to mix them in this way or that way. Sometimes it doesn't work, certainly, but then sometimes it really works well.
Yes. 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 And let's say, what would be your like some kind of let's say several free advices, right, to young composers, as well as going into multimedia composition? What what mistakes not to make, right, when you compose in multimedia, when you use multimedia for your
Sorry, your voice is a bit broken. I think the connection
what
was
would be
bad.
your free advices for young composers who
Yes.
wants to pursue like multimedia composer career, right? What mistakes not to make?
Ah, well, I never thought about giving an advice, since I still consider that I'm a learner now. But well, due to my experience, I think one of the most important advice is then having the motivation to make a work with a good quality, or try to work very careful on all the details. Then, because I also see a lot of young musicians or composers, they're not patient. Of course, not all, but I knew some, and they're too hurry. They're not patient enough to really learn about this thing or that thing, to really understand it, and then certainly the result is not as good as they expect, or as good as audience expect. So for me, the motivation to work for a good production is very important. And what not to make, I think it's just stay about that point, that not to be too hurry. Just takes time, because in the beginning it always take a lot of time to try this and that, and sometimes for me also, before there was a lot of time that I didn't find a good way how to develop my piece, for example, or how to really bring my idea out. But then you just have to try it in a different way. So that's what I did, and even now, of course, a lot of times I'm failed. But if I give up, then I'd have become someone else now.
And what you, as a composer, what you fear the most?
Fear most that I don't that I'm not careful to work in my composition. So for me, it's still the main point that if I become careless, then I destroy all the things that I I want to do or I have created so far. So for me, that's the thing I fear most, that I will not be careful. Because if I don't know this thing, I don't know that thing, I can learn. But if I'm not careful, finish.
Yeah. And now I will ask as a question from my friend, Sharan, why do you still compose?
Well, interesting question. Um, I think that the main reason that I still compose is I'm able to express myself. I'm able to even learn about myself, my inner self, and able to express it through mainly sound, or later and recently it's visual, also some other things. And that is this very, for me, it's a powerful thing, because you cannot learn all about yourself at once. So you, through working, through experiencing, I learn more about my inner self, even about my personality, about my relationship, about my life. Then through my work I can express all those things, and how to put them together.
And right, looking back during this century, what is your opinion how new music landscape changed in Vietnam during this century?
mm, Change in Vietnam, yeah, in fact it has changed a lot since 1990, when the first generation of let's say contemporary music or experimental music appeared. In the beginning it was just like I think one or two or three composers, and then it was so difficult for them to start. But before that, there was no new music composer. And then until now, we still don't have many new music composers, but more than in 90s and then in 2000s. I think now we have like maybe 20 in Vietnam. And the artist, the composer, as I see that now, they care more about the Vietnam culture aspect, Vietnamese culture aspect, more than before. Even in 1990s or even 2000, early 2000, not many artists really care about. No, I would not say artist, I say composer is more precise. So they didn't really care much about Vietnamese culture, because they thought that it's more interesting to look outside, according to globalization.
Yes.
So they interested in other things like out of Vietnam. But then recently, more and more, either young artists and the let's say elder artists or composers, they start to discover more their own culture or their root. So I think is really something changed in the last years.
And how change audience in music?
Oh wow, audience! I think this at this point changed a lot because in the 90s, audience and new music, um, they were just artists together, or mainly visual artists, I would say, because in Vietnam the visual art, it developed faster than music. So in the 90s, when some composers in the first generation of new music, they start to compose, and they said that at that time they didn't know what kind of music they did. That it come from their demands to compose in that way, but they didn't know what kind of music it was. And the audience are just visual artists, or let's say painters, because at that time the contemporary art, they approach the painters, they approach earlier than musicians, so they are quite open-minded, I would say. And the community, the art community at that time is also small, so when one, two, three composers, they create some work, some experimental work, then the audience just only the artists in that communities, so they come to support each other in the community, and that's all. And even at that time, even the musicians, or let's say classical musicians, they didn't know, or they didn't appreciate, or they didn't care about the experimental work, because they suppose that it's not music, it's something else, or to just do something weird. So they didn't want to come, they didn't want to try it. And then in 2000, it start to the audience start to come to the performance a little bit more, very slowly, but then the amount of people increase a little bit. And then so far, even in the last few years, I saw that the amount of audience who come to the experimental music concert or performance, it really changed. It's not only the number of people, but also about the age range. A lot of young people, they start to be curious about new things, so they come. And even some elders, like they also want to try. And even some parents, they bring their kids to the show, and it's really a good sign for us as artists, because then they like it or not.
Yes.
It depends on their taste. We can't judge, but at least they're curious. They want to know what it is. Then it already like something encourage artists to be creative, to create more work, and to show the audience, bring the work on stage. So now it's really a good sign for us.
Yes. I just I'm curious question. If I'm young people, if I'm younger, right, in Vietnam, I would like to learn to compose, to learn to be a composer of new music composer, right? To be a new music composer. Do I have some opportunities to study in some academy or universities, composing of new academic music?
Oh, sadly, so far there's no major or faculty in Vietnam where young people can learn new music. I have to say it's really sad. But if young people they are interested in new music, they can always contact artists, composers, to ask for some advice or show some of their work, or even like internet they search works pieces on internet, listen to it, or they can also bring their own work on internet and share. So for me, I think that it's also a way to learn. It's not that all the time we learn things at the academy, but certainly it would be very good. It would be very good if there's some academies or conservatories where the young people can learn it really in system. Hopefully something will happen in Vietnam soon.
And let's say new music landscape or new music community. Let's say new music community is more concentrated in which cities. Like in which cities you can find if you go in Vietnam, then you can find those people, those composers. Are they in Hanoi or in another city?
Ah. So far, most of new music composers are located in Hanoi and in Saigon, or some people just know the name as Ho Chi Minh City. Saigon is the old name. Mainly new music artists in south and the north. In the center, Vietnam, I think so far there are not many or very few. I haven't known anyone yet. Maybe someone or new appearance recently, but I really hope that we can discover more artists in different parts of the country, not only in the south and in the north. Yeah.
And what are trends, right? Where's this new music in Vietnam is going? What are main trends? What are
Sorry.
main trends, right? Trends. What are main
Yes.
trends in new music in Vietnam?
The trends in new music in Vietnam now is the elements that they explored in traditional music, or I not say only traditional music, but also traditional like traditional art in general,
Yes.
because some visual artists they also find a way to bring traditional art in their work and to present it in a new way. So that's really the big point there in Vietnam. In the last, I think, almost 10 years, it becomes strong, really strong.
Okay. And how you see the future, right? How you see the future of new music in Vietnam? Let's say after 20 years, right?
Yes. So I think new music becomes stronger and stronger in Vietnam so far, and now more people know about that. For example, in my times in the 90s, there's no new music, no experimental music, nothing, no contemporary, nothing about that. And now more people know about that. More they're keen to come to the new music performance, from different fields. They can be a designer, they can be just student from somewhere, not music student, from any job, but even officer. But now before they don't care at all, because it's something new, so it might be not good. And so they just cover themselves. But now they more open. They go there just to see what it is. And now and also like some designer, for example, they also start to care about the contemporary art or contemporary music, new music, and they try to work with the artist to bring them all together, their own work, in collaboration with new music composers, artists, or contemporary artists in other fields. So I have to say now the role of new music in particularly, it really improved a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, compared to 20 years ago.
Yes.
Or
Yes.
even 10 years ago.
Continuing that thought, right? Last question. Continuing that thought. What is new music role in Vietnam society?
Yeah, that's what I just said. That the role.
Role, yes.
That yes.
Why? What function new music? What function it provides to society?
I think that for them now is the function of new music is to help them to discover more, discover themselves, discover other abilities to try this and that, and then to get more experience, more knowledge, to create something else that they don't really have to follow a strict rule, but they can break the rule.
Yes.
To be more free.
Yes. So thank you very much for this interview. So I enjoy a lot.
Yes, thank you too. That for giving me opportunity to share about myself, also a little bit about the scenes in Vietnam.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.